fabulous work going on here in Montana. Before we ask our next Wetland Stewardship Award recipient, the Montana Natural Heritage Program Wetland and Riparian Mapping Center, to come forward, I'd like to highlight a few of their accomplishments and why they were nominated and selected to receive a Wetland Stewardship Award. So for a little bit of background, if you missed this morning 9 o'clock presentation, Wetland and Riparian Mapping was an unfunded federal mandate back in the 70s and 80s. Limited mapping was completed in Montana along the High Line, but basically 10 years ago, Montana was one of the least mapped states in the nation, meaning we didn't have information to identify where to do priority conservation, restoration work, and management work. That changed in about 2005, when the Wetland Council secured some seed money for mapping. The Montana Land Information Advisory Council approved wetlands as one of the official state data layers, and that was really critical to get that to be an official state data layer. And then Linda Vance and the Montana Natural Heritage Program took the charge up to create the Wetland and Riparian Mapping Center, hire staff, and begin the process of developing a data layer that met Federal Geographic Data Committee standards. Since then, there have been 15 funding partners that Montana Heritage Program, the Mapping Center, has leveraged and pulled together to fund the mapping layer for its work. There's 5 photo interpreters that have been working full-time creating these new maps using color infrared aerial photography as a base layer, and then adding in other ancillary data layers, soils and elevation as examples. The result is that Montana now has about 80% of the state mapped, with historic maps and new digital maps that the Heritage Program has been working on. Another 10% is funded, meaning, it's the plug, another 10% needs to get funded. We heard a bit about that this morning. There also needs to be some updates of the historical maps. Those maps weren't done to the same standards that we have available to map right now as far as the information. So you're not off the hook, folks out there. The new digital maps are publicly accessible to all users in multiple electronic formats. They're fast, they're free, it's easy access, it's information on the type and size, the location, the distribution of wetlands and riparian resources across Montana. Wetland and riparian maps are now used at every level of government and in the private sector, providing that crucial information for management, planning, protection, and restoration. In response to the announcement that the Wetland Council made about recognizing the Wetland and Riparian Mapping Center, Nature Conservancy staff wrote in, and they said, "This is such a great program. We use the information for so many purposes across the state. Thank you to the Heritage Program team for the excellent work, and glad to see the recognition. It's well deserved." The award committee agreed unanimously. So I'm pleased to present the 2015 Wetland Stewardship Award to the Montana Natural Heritage Program Mapping Center. I'd like to introduce the 2 managers and then also ask the photo interpreters, past, present, and maybe even future, come forward. Linda Vance is the senior ecologist at the Heritage Program. She's director of the program's Spatial Analysis Lab at the University of Montana. She's been with the Heritage Program since 2005, working on wetland assessments, monitoring, mapping of land cover and land use, and characterization of ecosystems and the processes that are affecting them. Karen Newland has been an ecologist project manager with the Montana Natural Heritage Program since 2008. Karen is the theme lead for the Montana Spatial Data Infrastructure Layer, the wetland layer. She has also worked on developing GIS and field-based tools to assess wetland condition across Montana. So I invite them forward, as well as current and past photo interpreters. And Angela, if you would like to come forward, and we can do a little photo.
Montana to work for the Natural Heritage Program in 2005. And I was pretty lucky that my first project was already funded. It was a project with the Bureau of Land Management. And it was to do a watershed-based wetland assessment in the Middle Powder watershed. And I thought, great, cool, I can do this. So the first thing I did was I sat down at my brand new computer and I fired up what the guy called ArcGIS 3.3. And I started to add all the data layers. And when I got to wetlands, there was no data layer. None, absolutely none. We were going to assess these wetlands, we were going to go out there on the ground, see what kind of condition they were in, and we didn't know where they were. No idea. We found out that some of those wetlands had been mapped by the Fish and Wildlife Service back in the 1980s, and we figured the maps had to be available somewhere. Well, they were, kind of. They were rolled up on Mylar sheets in a basement in Louisiana. Yeah. Now, where would you keep maps? Would you keep them in Louisiana? I wouldn't. And those maps weren't available. Now, fortunately, we were doing this project with the Bureau of Land Management. We were able to talk to them over time, and they recognized the importance of wetland mapping. They recognized the importance, Linda Saul recognized the importance, the Wetland Council recognized it. The EPA, fortunately, also was persuaded of the importance. And so we took on this audacious project of mapping wetlands and riparian areas across Montana. Did we know what we were doing? No. We had no idea what we were doing. We had one person working for us, my predecessor, Greg Medray, who had mapped wetlands as part of his PhD project on the Hiawatha National Forest in Michigan. It doesn't look the same. We hired a couple of people, one of whom was Megan Burns, who also had no real experience mapping wetlands, and they learned. They learned from scratch. They learned and they created templates, tools, signature databases, so that they could teach the people who came on after that. Now, when we brought on our most recent photo interpreter, Emily Luther, we had what we call binders full of wetlands. Some of you may recognize that reference. Binders full of wetlands that would help her to recognize the signature of a wetland in the aerial imagery. So we've not only created these maps that cover almost 80% of the state, we've created a workflow that can continue as we go forward with our mapping, hopefully, and remapping, so that we'll always have a really good idea of where our wetlands are. Don't want to say, doesn't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? We know what we have, thanks to the wetland mapping. None of you outdoors people, I hope, would go out without a map. You have to have maps to know what you're doing. Things have changed so much that last weekend I was able to look at some of the mapping that these guys have done and identify that there's a particular kind of saturated forested wetland that we didn't even know we had in Montana, in one particular basin up in Glacier National Park. And I called the Glacier National Park botanist and said, "Hey Tara, you know you got these really unusual wetland types up there?" And she said, "No, we've never been over there." This is what maps can do for us. So we'll be going up there. We expect that we may be able to find species of concern, species that don't exist anywhere else. It's a tremendously powerful tool. Catherine Whiteman, Steve Carbonetto, and I are talking about a project that we want to do using some of these maps to prioritize areas where wetlands are really in need of protection because they're not threatened by human development, or restoration, where they have been impacted by development, but have the capacity to be fixed. There's so much we can do with these maps. That's why so many partners have come together to fund this. We hope partners will continue to come together to fund this. I'll be around. I have my little bag. I just drop dollar bills and I'm good with that. But we're really happy to have had a chance to do this. And I think one of the things that I want to acknowledge is, if you look at the photo over here, you can see there are 19 different people who've been involved in wetland mapping over the years. Some of them have gone on to the private sector, some have gone to the federal government, some to the state government. You know, it's been really our honor to bring in so much funding to help build our communities, our professional communities, our community here in Helena, our community in Missoula. It's been wonderful to have this opportunity to give young people jobs while we create this great resource for the use of everybody in the state. So on top of it, be recognized for this by the Wetland Council just makes me plain happy. So I want to